Here we go on a brand new unit, Unit 9, Geometry with Formulas. Our first lesson is going to be on perimeter. So first we have to know what perimeter is. Perimeter is the distance around something or the edge of a shape. So if I were to look at this triangle, the perimeter would be the measurements of all three sides together, right? The distance around the shape, the edge of the shape. So for this rectangle right here, you can imagine you have, let's say, a rectangular backyard. You want to put some fencing up around your backyard to fence it in. You would have to know the distance around your backyard in order to know how much fencing to buy. So in order to find the perimeter, all you're really doing is you're adding up the measurements around that shape. So for this one, think to yourself, we've got 4 plus 4 plus 2 plus 2. That gives us a perimeter of 12. All right. Now, pretty simple concept, but what we're going to be focusing on this unit is using formulas. And that's pretty much going to be every single lesson. We're going to be working with formulas. We're going to be using formulas in order to come to the correct answers. So while perimeter is pretty simple, we're going to have to do some practicing of using formulas because they're going to become increasingly important as you get to higher grades in math. So let's start with this rectangle here. Same rectangle as before. We have the same measurements, so we already know what the perimeter is going to be. However, we are going to use a formula to figure out what the answer would be, imagining we don't actually know what it is already. So what formulas do is they use letters to represent the steps. So since we're finding the perimeter of a shape, we're going to represent that with the letter P. We're trying to find perimeter. And then really the rest of the formula just shows the steps that you are going to do. And what we are going to do is we're going to take a side measurement, represented with an S, and add and add and add 4 sides together. So the formula for perimeter of a rectangle could be expressed as perimeter equals S plus S plus S plus S. Okay, so the first step is writing the formula out. And those letters are just telling us what we have to do. They're just telling us the steps to find perimeter. Okay, so what you can do is you can rewrite perimeter equals, we're imagining we don't know what the perimeter is, and you can add your different sides together. So in place of the S's, we are putting the value of each side together, and we come up with perimeter equals 12. Now, this seems like a lot of steps for something that is very simple. We started with perimeter for this unit because it is one of the simpler ones. Please get used to writing out these steps, writing out formulas for this whole unit. It's going to be so important, and especially, like I said, when you get to more advanced and complicated math, knowing these steps and how to do them is really, really, really important. Okay, so you're going to write out the formula up here. Then you filled in what you knew what all the side lengths were, 4 plus 4 plus 2 plus 2, and you ended up with a perimeter of 12. All right, well, let's skip ahead a little bit and then we'll come back to that square in a minute. This formula works for any sort of shape that has straight sides. So here we have a triangle, and the only difference is instead of 4 sides, what you have are 3 sides. So you can imagine that we have different side lengths given to us. You would plug in those side lengths as your S's, and then you could calculate the perimeter that way. Same for other shapes, like this one would be another one, not a rectangle, but it does have 4 sides, so we would just add them together. So you can use the right amount of S's to represent your sides. And then one other bit of a review thing, we have done it before, is just to remember that if you have matching symbols on sides, you know that those are the same measurements. So let's say this side was 2 centimeters, you would know because of this matching symbol that over here this would be a 2 as well. Same thing here, if this was a 3 and this was a 6, here we have matching symbols. You know that this side is going to be a 3 as well. You know that this side is going to be a 6 as well. All right, back to the square. There's a little bit of a shortcut that you can do for a square because squares have all the same sides. So let's say one side of our square was 3 centimeters, kilometers, whatever it was. Because all four sides of a square are the same, what you can actually do is do a little bit of a short form of your formula. You can say perimeter equals 4s. Now, remember that when we put two things next to each other, you should remember this from the integers unit, it really means the same thing as multiply or times. But this is one of those situations when we're using letters in math, so we want to avoid that multiplication symbol with an x because it could get a little bit confusing, but this just means 4 times s. So then all you would do is you would do 4 times 3 to come to your perimeter of 12. All right, one more cool thing about formulas is that you can use them in different ways. So you might come across a question, and actually you will have a couple examples of these in your exercises today, where you know the perimeter, but you are missing one of the side lengths. So what you can do is you can write out your formula. Perimeter equals side plus side plus side. We have 3 sides because it's a triangle. And then you just fill in what you know. Okay, now in this instance, we know what the perimeter is. We know that the perimeter is 12. Okay, so we can substitute the 12 for the p. We don't know what one of the sides is because it's an x. But we do know that we have a 4 and we have a 5. So now, instead of our unknown number being here, it's over here. Okay, and what we can do is, we know how to calculate this part, so let's just rewrite everything that we've had so far. We have an x plus 9. This should look familiar. We have done this before when we talked about algebra. We've done questions like it before, so this should be a bit of review. When we have algebra and we have one letter, we have one variable that we need to find, what you have to do is think to yourself, what is being done to that letter? We're adding 9 to that letter. So to get rid of it, we rewrite it, oops, plus symbol there, and we do the opposite thing. Okay, these two things, if we add 9 cookies and we take 9 cookies away, they cancel each other out. So we're getting that x all by itself. But in order for the equals sign to be true, we also have to subtract 9 over on this side. Okay, so what ends up happening is we end up, once we do 12 minus 9, we get a 3, and we get a final answer of 3 equals x. Okay, so that should be reviewed. There are a couple questions that use this skill, this algebra skill. So make sure that you take a close look. If you need to watch the video again, do it, back it up, watch it one more time, make sure you understand those steps of algebra. Think to yourself, what's being done to the x? Do the opposite thing, and you should end up with the correct answer using these very, very important steps. I know that some of you will be thinking, I can figure out what that x is just by itself, but the steps, I've said this many times this year, the steps are what's really, really important. So making sure that you are going through those steps, get them all right, written out. I will write them out